haven't about the sheep. No. What's
People-
happening?
People
I
have
saw
been
a little
accusing.
bit.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, when I've got sheep on their backs, right, and I'm doing their hooves, people are accusing me of doing all sorts of things with them.
Oh, well, after 9 o'clock now.
Hang on a minute. You're presuming I'm doing naughty things with my sheep. I'm not.
Well, I thought you were going to talk about the people complaining you were doing it. That still
Oh,
counts.
right, yeah. They are complaining that I'm doing
No
things with my sheep.
allusions. No allusions.
Oh, right, okay. So what you're trying to say, what you're trying to say is, I'm not alluding to a fact that isn't happening, but they're alluding to facts
Yes.
that are subliminal.
And I said, you
I wish my notes made sense.
But mind you, I would say that some of my sheep are really attractive.
Everything,
Well, in a sort of
and you just got to wear the
nice, friendly way.
Well, it's
Yeah, they are.
In a very platonic kind of way.
Yeah, exactly.
A platonic kind of beauty. Hey.
Yeah, they are. So we'll give Ruth a couple of minutes, because what's going to happen in a minute? Anne's screen's going to start to go a bit ape, which it already has. Right? Pete's going to start to moan about why isn't Ruth turned up, right? Richard's going to moan about the fact that he's got to have dinner at 12:30. Kathy's going to complain about that she's got to be somewhere at 1 o'clock. So Ruth had better worry up. Anne's talking total editor drivel as usual.
Come here, sit down.
Who the hell's that talking in the background?
Yeah. That's all the time.
What's Anne?
Because of him, it's upsetting, isn't it?
Yeah. It is upsetting.
You just
Do you know everything she's saying is actually on the
door. There she is.
Oh, that's good. She's at the door, right? I gotta mute her now. Right, mute. Anne's muted. Right, we got Kate there, so we should be starting in a moment, Pete.
Okay, I'll mute me as well.
No, we're not going to mute you. We like your clock, Pete. I'm going to say it right. Your clock is a much better attractive than listening to Anne moaning about her husband. Or she's moaning about some bloke.
Well,
okay.
as well.
Why have you got a mute? Why is everyone? Hang on, we haven't done the news yet.
I got some news.
The news?
Yeah.
What? Donald Trump? What?
There's a picture in Wyndham. You know the Wyndham?
Yeah.
There's a picture in there of Barry, and they're not sure what year it is. And there's hardly houses in Barry. The docks are there.
Ah, probably about the late.
It's a massive picture of Barry, but there's hardly any houses there. The docks are there, but they can't get the year of it.
Probably about 1890 by the sounds of it.
I thought it was.
Because does it have the other dock there? Because the dock one was opened in 1889 and dock 2 was opened in 1895.
No, it was only the one dock.
Right. So it's obviously. Oh well, no, that makes sense. Why didn't you just go with 1890 then?
Yeah, it's a massive picture in the clubhouse.
Why don't you take a little bit of a photograph for us?
I will. I was skittling up there. I was, and I'd seen it, and we were talking about it.
All right. But by the way, you're not allowed to talk about your love life. Hang on a minute. You're not allowed to talk about your love life today because we're all jealous. So right, Ruth. Other than that, have you got any other news for us this week? Because we're well and truly started now. It's 11:14, which is about 20 minutes earlier than we usually start. Well, it's 20 minutes earlier than last week. Last week you turned up late. Someone else turned up late. I was outside in the pouring bloody rain trying to teach. It was a bit of a thing last week, Ruth. Any other news you've got? Any other news you've got for us, Ruth?
No, nothing else.
Right, okay. Right, Kate, I'm relying upon you to put some wisdom into the old life moments of life.
Oh, I don't know how wise it is, but yesterday
Go for it.
was my first go at Tredegar House.
Oh, yes. Tell us all about that because we want to know, get a bit of background. Why are you at Tredegar House? Tell us.
Oh, because I've volunteered to be a house host, they call it.
Yes.
One of those people who stand in the various rooms telling funny stories if you're lucky. Making sure people keep their mitts off things. But it is good fun, and I would really recommend it. They're desperate for volunteers, like everywhere. They've lost people all over COVID, and people haven't come back. And yes, on Monday when I was there, they had to close the upstairs for the afternoon because there weren't enough volunteers to man it. So that's a shame. But there are benefits. There are benefits. They'll pay you your mileage up to 40 miles round trip. So long as you do 50 sessions a year, or no, 50 hours. A session, a morning is 3 hours, the afternoon is 3 hours. You only really have to do one session, morning or afternoon, a fortnight to keep your hand in. And but you can do as much as you want, really.
No, that sounds really good.
Well, it is. And apart from that, you don't get a discount on a membership or a free membership, but
Oh, it's terrible.
You can go into any NT property. You can get a parking permit to park in NT properties, and you get 20% off in the shops.
Oh, that's
So
fine.
you don't need it. You don't really need a membership, then, do you?
No, you don't. Oh, right. No, you don't need a membership because if you're able to go into the properties.
Yeah. And the trip went there. If somebody fancied it and didn't think they'd want to do it from Bury, the trip wasn't bad at all. I went sort of Link Road down to Tremorfa and then just the A48. Easy sleazy, no motorway.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what you could do is get Pete over there. He'd like to do that.
Oh golly, aye. It's
So,
great.
Yeah,
He's shaking his head. It's lovely. And of
what-
course, the other people that people sign up to do, to be the crew of a certain day. I'm a Monday, part of the Monday crew. And the same people have been there for years and years and years. And they're very friendly. And of course, they're all interested in history and so on. And one of them was telling me that when the house is shut, they will still meet for coffee somewhere. So that's sort of nice. There was a happy little banter there in what they call the volunteers mess. That was nice. So that was nice.
No, I think that sounds very attractive. Thank you very much.
Not at all. And I'm beginning to learn about the house. I've ordered 2 books. Not just the house, but the people. But it is interesting. The star is Evan Morgan, the last one, he was some sort of aide to the Pope or something as a Catholic convert, but then went to the dark side and was big chums with Aleister Crowley as well afterwards. So very colourful.
There's nothing wrong with going on to the dark side. You know that.
No, no, I don't know that.
I'll just keep that to myself then.
Yes,
okay,
I think so.
Okay then. Okay.
Was that
Peter,
another watershed moment?
What is it with you and a bloody watershed today? You're obsessed with it. Shut up. Right. Okay then. Any news from you, Peter?
Nice.
Me,
nice.
no. Though I have been reading about where the world started to use money. Why did they start to use money? Where did they start to use money?
Oh,
And it looked like it was over in China.
Right.
And whereas people would barter with their goods, like 20 apples would equal a sheep. So you could buy a sheep for 20 apples or whatever that, if you had an apple orchard. And then they decided to use coins and money.
So have we got any dates for this, Peter?
At some point, then they decided that gold didn't just look pretty, but also add value.
But a bit like you, Pete. You're pretty and you got value as well. So Right. Okay. Anyway, thanks for that, Pete. I want to mention this to Peter and Kate. I've got a letter that I want to send you, Peter, that I want you to deliver by hand to Brian Luxton, right? And I've got a letter for Kate that I wanted to deliver to Gerald Baudet by hand. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I don't know
okay.
who it is, so you'll have to tell me who that is and where to find them.
Gerald Baudet. You don't know where Gerald Baudet lives?
No,
Oh,
I don't know
God.
who he is. I don't know who he is.
Right. Okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. We'll find the address. I'll send the letters over to you anyway. Right. If that's okay. Anyway.
Yeah, of course it's okay.
Thank you very much. Kate's obviously, I do believe Kate's taken the photograph for the Barron District this week, so that's really good. Right. Anne, have you got any news for us this week other than being muted? Anne, any news for us this week? We've got to ask her to unmute.
Oh, you muted her.
All right then. She don't want to say anything. Right. Okay then. Who's next? Richard, anything you want to tell us this week, darling?
I did go to Dennis Powis.
Tell us about Dennis Powis then.
It was oh dear, I went to see my mother-in-law. She's deteriorated a bit.
Oh,
We
All
were
right,
going to
sorry
go. We were going to go out, but she was sat there in her pajamas. So I thought we better just stay in her room. We better just stay in with her, you know.
Oh, bless.
But yeah, it is very, very. It's difficult, you know, because you don't know what to expect, really. You know.
it's always hard. It's there is no rule book. Do what you think is best at the time, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like we've missed the best years of really, you know, because of the lockdown. She was in there and she's, you know, dementia's just got really bad.
It was stolen from you. It was stolen from all of us.
Yeah.
We mustn't forget them and let them get away with it. I swear to you, we mustn't let them get away with it.
No. I suppose it's not until it affects you really realise, you know, that was it necessary, you know. Just
well, you know my views on the fictitious nonsense of the
Yeah.
pandemic.
There's horror stories galore.
They were kept prisoner, really.
Locking.
Oh, and they stopped cancer treatments.
Oh yeah.
They did stop that for some while, didn't
They're
they?
trying to kill us off.
I was in hospital, sharing a ward with women when they just restarted the treatments,
Oh right.
and they'd been told it was too late.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
I'm still traumatized by that.
Yeah. Oh,
Never
I
mind
don't
those
know.
poor women and their families.
Yeah.
We should have. We should really be.
Okay, folks, we're
Okay,
gonna
I'm
have to.
shutting up. I'm
Oh,
shutting
sorry,
up.
no, you ask a woman.
I will end up having a warning about this if we don't stop talking about it. So, right, okay then, right. Any other news? Any news from you, Richard?
No, nothing for me.
Okay, what about you, Kate?
No, I'm fine. There isn't anything.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
see Kate, but are you decided not to be seen
Here I
today?
am. Here we are. I'm going to try and stay out of the way, though.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay.
Oh.
Okay,
No
right,
news.
folks. Anyway, folks, I've got a couple of announcements. We've got to try and be done and dusted by 12:30. So if we could do that, it's 11:23 now. Okay, first things first, we're cracking on with the Museum of Barron District project. We've had a little bit of nasty feedback this week. Basically, it's got very political. So what I'm going to say is that any news that anyone reads on Facebook about any museum project, I do not want to hear about it anymore. I don't want to hear about what anyone else is doing. We've got to focus on what we're doing. because
Absolutely.
this museum thing has got very political. I will be standing as a parliamentary candidate in next year.
Yay!
As a candidate to establish a museum in Barry, that'll really screw up Plaid Cymru's plans, because their thing is stealing my ideas about having a museum. So that's what I'll be doing. So I'm going to make it political. That's why I don't want us to have anything on Facebook and give that attention to us. We've got two people who've contacted me this week, who are on our side of the fence. One person who's got some material that they want to donate, and another person who's got material that belongs to one of the old committee members of the Barry Museum Association that I established in 1989. So that's some other things that we've got coming. So that's two people who are on our side. So that's brilliant. The other thing as well is we're trying to get hold of slides so that we can have these slideshows, and that's that. So again, I'll reiterate, anyone that hears any news about any museum projects from now on, I don't want to hear them. I'm not interested. I don't want you talking about it online. I don't want you taking me aside and talking about it. It's just depressing. And we're going to be at the studio tomorrow between 4 and between 3:30 and 7 o'clock. And we've got we've got a load more books arriving next week. So more about that next week. And then basically, obviously, we're continuing with the stuff in the Barron District. I don't know what's happening with the stuff in the Barron District because they seem to be getting the reports from me each week, and they seem to be deleting the person who actually takes the photographs, which is quite upsetting for the person who takes the photographs, whether it's Kate, Richard, Pete. For some reason, they don't like using the name of the person who takes the photographs for the column, which is bizarre. So that person doesn't get any credit, which I'm not happy with. I'm being convinced in the background to stop my column with the Barron District, but one of the reasons why people buy the Barron District at this minute is because of my column, so I'm not going to do that yet. So that's it. So what we are going to do today is we're going to look at some nice images that I've got lined up, and sort of we're gonna talk a little bit about the medieval period, a tiny little bit about Barry Castle. Maybe we might refer a little bit to the Barry book. I've got some images I want to show you that I have not actually made public at all, ever. So you'll be looking at those images today. They're not massive, but it'll give you an idea of some of the things I've been talking about over the years. So that's fine. The other thing as well is, thankfully, I've got the technology up and running that me and Richard are actually speaking on the internet with stuff that we're doing. So when I'm editing the newsletter now, the LSIG pillar, Richard can see what I'm doing live with the Barry and Cadoxton book. The realization is whatever I write in there, he can see, and he can also comment on it. So that's great. So we've now got that technology. I don't know why I've managed to suddenly work this out after 3 years, but I've done it. So that's good. So we're gonna start looking at some images now, and let's sort of share the screen. And I don't know if there's anyone online. There probably is. If you want to put messages online, that's fine. We've got live chat online, and we're going to start now. And let's crack on. And nobody told me that my image wasn't being shown then, but that's life. Or was it? I don't know. Anyway, so let's look at this now. And the images, we'll mention a little bit about Rice Merrick's publication that we have mentioned a few times, but I've got a page in here that I want to read out. This is a book of Glamorgan Antiquaries by Rice Merrick that relies heavily on the work of John Leland from the 1840s. Rice Merrick seemed to base lots of his stuff on John Leland, and why not? It puts John Leland into the light. So Rice Merrick, we've got this. We've got two little images I want us to see. We've got these images here that you've not seen before. And then we're going to be looking at these images that we're actually seeing. And before Peter says, why are you moving so quickly through the images? I am.
I am.
Do you know what, right? I don't wind Peter up anymore, and Peter don't wind me up. Because Peter years ago was my young disciple on an archaeological excavation of a mound, and Peter was left there holding the trowel as I did a runner as somebody turned up to arrest him. So I thought I'd put that in there, Pete.
Aye, okay.
See, Pete, I got that in there first. You see what I did there? 1-0. Good. So in the closing years of the 1000s, what we do see in Glamorgan, not throughout the rest of Wales, but in Glamorgan, Morgannwg, we see massive changes. And one of the big bugbears that we have as archaeologists is trying to understand what happened before that. And this is why, in many ways, we directly go to the late 1000s. And we unfortunately do have a lack of information from before the 1100s. And when Anne said she went to Dinas Powys, I thought Anne was going to say, oh, I visited the remains of Dinas Powys Castle. I would have loved to have had an update on that. But better still, Anne visited one of the people powerful in their life in a care home. So go on, Anne.
I'll try.
And you've got to keep your mother-in-law happy. So that's the main thing, right? You got to see her.
I couldn't take her up the mound. I don't think so.
Who were exactly. Anyway, so the summer's coming out. Maybe an opportunity. Right. Okay. So what we've got is the 1100s. We've got some buildings we don't know much, and everything seems to become Norman or Normanized. So what we do see, we can use words like English political events altered the landscape, cultural events altered the landscape. For example, the image in front of us now is the Shell Keep building that was being built from the late 1000s, 1100s onwards, which is at Cardiff. You could say that this is a political statement. This is to say that the Normans have arrived. Using the word the English have arrived is actually incorrect, because the English have suffered as much as we have. The Cornish have suffered as much as we have. The Scottish will suffer as much as we have. As for people in Cymru, Wales, our period of suffering in the 1100s has only just begun. A long period of 180 years, 200 years of complete retreat into a world that would no longer exist. So the arrival of the Normans under Robert Fitzhammond put an end to the independence of Glamorgan as a part of that sort of world of princes and lords and kings that were obviously pre-Norman. And this image as well could be a cultural image. It's a cultural change. And all of those points, that it's a political change from the 1090s, 1100, it's a cultural change. Though those words have got great value in trying to understand where we are in Barry, for example. And Barry, for example, and I'm going to say it, which is probably inappropriate. Barry only seems to exist from the 1100s onwards, and in many ways, the reason why that clearly is because we don't have much in the way of remains before 1100s in the Barry area. So that again's an important point. Trying to look for things that existed before the Normans is very different in the Barry area, Barry and district area. the big reason why this part of Cymru, Wales, come under the heel of the Normans from the 1090s, 1100s onwards was because it's one of the richest, most fertile parts of Wales. The other two major areas of fertility are Anglesey and Little England, which I need not remind anybody is actually Pembrokeshire. When we think about this area, we just think that it was almost conquered within a flutter of the eyelids. And the reason why I wanted to mention what Rice Merrick exclaims of Glamorgan in the 1090s is directly linked with this massive change. And whilst looking at this little section in Rice Merrick's work about and alongside John Leland's work from the 1340s, he mentions not 12 knights coming to Glamorgan, but 13. Put that up. But
mystery.
The 13th knight, this was a guy who was writing in 1578. So who is the 13th knight? Maybe it's Jesus. Have you noticed there?
Yes.
King Arthur, Jesus. All right, let's just get off that one. So move on quickly. Let's just not put King Arthur into this Penarth. Oh no, how dare I? So, Anthony's powers cat. Oh, right, forget it. So what we find is that the former Welsh kingdom of Morgannwg was henceforth to become the medieval Norman marcher lordship of Glamorgan. This was now the new frontier. This was the frontier between the Welsh and the English. This was Glamorgan. And thinking about that as well, Glamorgan was a frontier. It was between two worlds. The Normans would say that the Welsh were backwards. We would say that the English were backwards in their cultural ideas. It goes both ways. So this area that we're talking about of Glamorgan stretches all the way from the Gower Peninsula, all the way through into Cardiff, all the way up to somewhere in the valleys, and that's a bone of contention. And the lordship and its controlling lord became extremely powerful for hundreds of years in the medieval period, and many vestiges of the period survive in the present landscape. I would like to make a flippant statement, a throwaway statement. In many ways, Glamorgan becomes one of the most prosperous, one of the most culturally advanced areas anywhere in England and Wales, really, because what we do see is that overnight all those earlier traditions, all those native traditions are wiped out. And what you've got castles like Cardiff, Caerphilly being constructed, by very, very powerful people. And then they must have been extracting large amounts of taxes from the local people. And that only goes to show about the wealth that there must have been in Glamorgan at that time. And that wealth must have come from those people who existed in Glamorgan before the Normans took over it. That's a very interesting point. Think about it. If you're in an area and you're building these really mighty, powerful castles, where is the money coming from? Leave that point. Don't need to answer it. Just leave it there in your minds. Just let it settle. So the reason why I do these classes on a Wednesday morning is to get you to think, right? That sounds very patronizing, but it makes you think. Because when we looked at that stone from Ogmore a few weeks ago, that made us think, and it made me think. This is what this is about. Glamorgan is rightly called, and I don't know if you can remember hearing this when you were a child, is rightly called the land of castles. Not Wales, but Glamorgan, land of castles. So when you think about it, down the Gower, you've got Oystermouth Castle, you've got Wobley Castle, you've got Oxford Castle, you've got Swansea Castle, you've got Lucha, you've got Neath, and then you come into this area, right? You've got Llanblethian Castle, you've got Caerphilly Castle, you've got all the ones in the valleys, you've got St Donat and Cardiff and Coity, and Newcastle, and Oldcastle. So the point is that when you use that term, a land of castles in Glamorgan, it is so fitting. And I don't know if any of you have ever been to Neath Castle, but it's a bit of a surprise.
Yes.
It is a surprise. It is. Yeah, it is. You'd be surprised, Dan, that the Crystal Shop in the Neath Town Centre is actually starting to sell my books as well. It's great.
Oh, I like Neath.
You like Neath? Go into the Crystal Shop and there's
oh God, I haven't been up there for years.
There's a Crystal Shop and there's a Scottish woman in there.
Oh right, okay.
She'll do you a cup of tea and put 2 teaspoons of arsenic in it if you say you know me. So the one of the things about all these castles, like this castle, not like this one, right? This is Barry Castle, but these castles were there to consolidate control, territorial gain within the landscape. During the conquest years, it's said at times that they built some of these out of earth and timber, like the original site at Sully, like the original site at Caira in Cardiff, like the original site maybe at Wenvo and Rinstone and Curterville, and all these other names of castles and locations of earth and timber. But no doubt, after a while, alongside the Great Motte being built at Cardiff, they were then completed in stone. Others had almost circular earthen banks and ditch defences, ringworks like the one I mentioned at Caira. And in fact, one of the castle sites that I have mentioned at Sully, that was also a ringwork. Basically, what a ringwork is a donut. It is just that. It is a donut. Like Llanhillyd in the Vale of Glamorgan, it's a donut. And just with a little entrance into it, and in the area you've got timber buildings, and the donut is actually the bank, and you usually had a ditch on the outside, and it was quite a simple earthwork like the one at Caira. If anyone, the best earthwork, the best ringwork, this donut in anywhere in South Wales is at Llanhillyd, but one of the best ones is actually at Caira. So if you go to see St Mary's Church at Caira, and I tell you what, right, if I can find my original images of Caira Church, it actually shows the roof still on it in the 1980s.
Oh my goodness!
And when you go to Caira now, the entire roof is on, the towers collapsed, and there's nothing much left of it. In the 1980s. 1985, I went with Knob End, my granddad, Nobber, love him to bits, Nodger. When I went with Nodger, right, on Nog, as we used to call him as well, right, we went into the church, and it was like they were trying to get the church up and running again, but all the stuff and everything was smashed up in there. And within a few years, the whole thing collapsed. But there's a ringwork. And a church overlooked it. It's a ringwork. It's a perfectly well-formed ringwork. And one of those ringworks was a ringwork that we mentioned the other week at Rumney. One of these ringworks was, you saw the remains from Rumney the other week, on the outskirts of Cardiff. In the later medieval period, many of these castles were reinforced in stone. And once again, the so-called shell keep on top of Cardiff, this shell keep at Cardiff is one of the finest examples of a shell keeper anywhere in Britain. But Windsor Castle is a good example. When you go inside this tower, you've got an open area commanded by this really sort of long, really tall wall, right? And that's what a shell keep is. You build a tall wall, and you can do whatever you like in the center of it. You've got to build a tall wall first, and that's what this is, a shell keep. And when we think about castles and how castles develop, we've actually got a poster in the studio in Barry, which we're going to put in a frame, right? I mean, it shows it showed most 90% of all the locations of the castles and quite a few of the manor houses in the Vale of Glamorgan. You'd be quite surprised how many there are in the Vale of Glamorgan, let alone Glamorgan. Glamorgan's quite a big area when you think about it. It's quite a chunky area, and it's a weird, strange area.
That's why they divided it up, I think.
Into the 100, Anne, into the word the 100 of Glamorgan. Exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that. So when we think about this development within this landscape, and we sort of think about this building, which will be very familiar to Kate and Ruth because they would have seen it very recently on the Llandaff Ghost Walks.
Yes.
It's the power of the church. So not only do we see secular control with the Norman lords, we also see ecclesiastical control. So a further development under the Normans was the reorganization of the church, bringing it more in line with southern England and the continent. And this is an interesting point that you might need to think about. Most of the monastic orders in Wales before the Normans disappear. They're wiped out, they're put to the sword, and they're replaced by the Cistercian and Benedictine and Dominican, and which is a bit of a shame because it's almost as if Christianity wipes out Christianity. And Peter will mention again Celtic Christianity of Cornwall, and the Christianity that is in Cymru, the native Christianity, whatever you want to call it, it disappears slowly but surely. It disappears, and it's replaced by these orders that I mentioned, like the Dominicans. Except I just want to chuck one thing in. When the Norman lords are cracking onto this, that when the Welsh lords and the Welsh kings are cracking onto this in about the early to middle part of the 1100s, instead of them inviting Cistercian monastic orders in to strengthen existing monastic orders, they invite other monastic orders from the continent, such as the Premonstratian monks, which end up at Tally Abbey in West Wales. So, in other words, what we do, we invite other French orders over. The Welsh invite other orders over to completely compete with the Norman monastic orders that the Normans have brought in. So, in other words, what we're finding eventually is that we're finding French orders that had been invited over by the Welsh, and the Norman orders invited over by the Normans, almost squabbling against each other for control of Wales. It's quite strange that. Thought I'd mention that. So what we find with Llandaff is that this new Normanization of religion as well. And the diocese was established for Southeast Wales, which is again a massive area with its centre at Llandaff. And this is the new control. So in other words, the old centres of control of religion being Coy Church and the likes of Llandaff Major, and even maybe Carrickson and Clan Llancarvan in the Vale of Glamorgan, those two, and Pendar, if anyone's ever heard of Pendar, which we actually cover in Elyseg Pillar. We've got the last parts coming up, haven't we, Richard? So those old sort of areas of religious control are replaced, and another one is Penrhys as well. In addition, most of the parish churches of South Glamorgan were built in stone for the first time during the medieval centuries, and many fine examples can be found at Llanblethian, which is near the church, Llancarvan, Llandaff Major, St. Athan, St. Hilary, St. Mary's Church, and so on. The one thing I would disagree with is that most are built in stone for the first time, but me and Richard might have found a little gem at St. Peter's Church at Cogan Hall in the Vale of Glamorgan that might actually predate those sort of Norman buildings. Anyway, moving on. And finally, monastic life, again based on Anglo-Norman lines, are dominated by these types of things, and these are basically granges, and these granges are also there. In other words, what we're seeing in this area by the 1100s A UNE, and is another one we didn't mention. By the 1100s, what we're seeing is not only are all the native lords and sort of kings and so on replaced throughout this area from Glamorgan into Gwent, right? Not only are they all not only all the sort of control aspects, religion is now controlled by the new Norman wave of religion, and I'm very aware not to use the word English, because I would like to reiterate that
just tell her it's scary. Oh my goodness, it's scary.
Shut.
Okay.
Good.
It's okay.
One of the things I would say is that when the Normans come over to England and they defeat Harold at Hastings on the 14th of October 1066, every single Anglo-Saxon earl, lord is either put to the sword, expunged from the country, made poor, other than one. So the entire structure of the lords and the aristocracy in England is replaced by the Normans. So they suffered massively. Also, the Anglo-Saxons, their religion was wiped out as well. Their old Anglo-Saxon religion, like the minsters at Winchester and Brinkworth, and all these other places, they were all replaced by the new Norman religion as well. So, and if you didn't agree with what the Normans were doing, right, you were put to the sword. So we moan and groan about our story, but the English have already had it, and so it's not the English are coming over; it's the Normans.
But they're French, aren't they?
French, exactly. And Anne, who would trust somebody who smells of garlic? Anyway, that really shut you up, didn't it? So what?
We never have garlic in our house.
Nothing wrong with garlic. It's lovely.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, garlic
Oh,
is
shut
lovely.
up, guys! Nobody's allowed to defend the French today. Thank you.
But I did have the Benedictines or Dominican.
I was just about to mention the Benedictines. Can I mention something? Right, this is a direct attack towards Peter, right?
Oh,
Yeah, this is having a go at Peter now, right? Pete, I know you love your French, right? But there's a lot more to say about the French than people from Cornwall. The Cornish don't even have a national dish. Right, let's move on.
You certainly do. You can't get away from a pasty.
No. Yeah, stargazy pie.
Okay, I'll take it all away. I'll take it all away, Pete. I do apologise for that. Right. Okay.
Stuffing cakes.
Shut up. Anyway, right. Anyway, when we're talking about this control, what we do see, if we've got these granges in the Vale of Glamorgan and throughout the area, lots of granges. A grange. We'll talk about what a grange is in a moment. This monastic grange. But if we go back to Sartogne ware, this type of jug from France, from the early 1300s, has been found throughout excavation sites throughout the Vale of Glamorgan. I found examples myself at Merthyr Dyfan, Cosmeston, and at Hollybush Farm in the Vale of Glamorgan. So I found examples of this myself. But if we mention this again, we see this sense of monasticism really taken over throughout the landscape. And if we mention this, and I'd like to know anyone who knows which church this is, and if you know which church this is, shout it out. So what we're talking about is these types of new wave of religion. We think about the Benedictine monasteries and 2 friaries were founded in Cardiff as one area, whereas other religious houses from outside the area created nucleuses of outlying estates or granges at places such as Lantworth Major and, if we go quickly, to Mar Cross, for example. And we're thinking about Monknash, but Monknash is associated with Neath rather than directly with Vale of Glamorgan. So for those that
is that Iweni Priory?
No.
That's the one in Dinnis.
No.
Nope.
No.
With a separate tower like that. I don't know where that is.
No.
Here we go. I'll read the caption. The origin of almost all the parish churches of South Glamorgan can be traced to the medieval period, particularly in the villages of the Vale. So there's a clue. This example is a picturesque setting at Bleep, became one of the largest.
Lantern
No.
Major?
It's not Lantwit.
No.
No, it's not Lantwit. No.
Llan Lisworney?
No.
Llanbladdir?
Oh, for God's sake.
Hogan.
All right, then. I've had enough of this suffering, right? This picturesque setting, Llancarvan.
I said
No.
Carven.
The tower isn't
Llancarvan.
separate like that, is it? No, it
No,
isn't.
this is Llancarvan. It's basically the angle.
Ah,
I thought it was, but I thought they must be like that. But no, I don't recall seeing the tower look separate like that. Let's
No,
look at
this is this.
it's the
Look
angle.
at
This
the
is
But it's a bit weird.
yeah.
look at the window there.
Oh, it's yeah,
It's just basically the angle you're looking at. This view
Ooh,
from the
that makes me want
southwest.
to run down there now.
This view from the southwest shows the south aisle
That's more or less
and
the corner
tower
of the
from
street there.
1300s. And the nave and chancel lie behind the aisle. You remember it's in two lots. When you look at you've got two bits of building. You've got the aisle and you've got the bigger nave. That's what you're
Yes.
thinking about, Kate. Thank you.
I
I'll
don't
tell
know
you
what
what,
I'm-
Kate.
I don't know. I
Kate,
just
why
remember
don't-
it all wrong. I don't remember that window or
Kate,
the, or the
Kate, why
tower
don't
looking
you and I dress up as transvestites, right, and wander through Llancarvan?
well, how would they know you were transvestites?
I think the beard would be a bit of a giveaway if he was wearing a dress.
He does a good Dorothy.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so long as Carl's the female, yeah.
Hang on a minute. What the hell's Kate gonna be?
Okay, they'll have to be.
God, I don't know.
She'll have to
I'll
put a
be a
hat
clown.
on. She'll have
Your
to put-
minder.
Please,
Your minder with a great big butterfly net.
right, please stop. Right. Many of the nucleated villages so familiar in the modern county of South Glamorgan probably owe their origin to the Anglo-Saxon Norman development.
St.
Before this
Caddock
time-
set up a lot of that on Llancarvan, didn't he?
The Arabs?
St. Caddock. St.
I thought you
Caddock.
said the Arabs. I said
St.
Saint
Caddock,
Caddock.
yes. St.
I tell you what,
Caddock,
let's
yes.
I tell you what, let's just
century.
bring the Sikhs into it as well. You know. Oh, hang on, we've already had that lecture, Pete. We had a few differences in the text, so we won't go there.
No.
So before this time, the rural settlement pattern is likely to be somewhat dispersed, but the new lords saw the economic advantages of nucleation. Not all of them have survived intact to the present day, since there is evidence of shrinkage and even desertion at sites such as Lancaidel and Cosmeston, which is quite clear. Lots of villages that were really established by the Normans. For example, Barry village and Sully villages, you could say, were basically of Norman sort of a situation. There were buildings in the area before the Normans, but the idea of everything being placed into one can be seen clearly when the Normans come into Sully. But there's one point as well that I've just made. Is Barry, even though Barry seems to be concentrated at Barry Castle, it's not, because the church is somewhere else. And there might be a sign. This is a very interesting point. This is a sign that Richard and I have been working on, and we've written about this, that Barry Village is spread out, and it's spread out for a reason. It might actually be based on the early native village plan. Thinking about that, I've just made the statement that that Norman villages are concentrated in one area, like Sully, like Llancarvan, like Lantwit Major, like Lancaidel, like Cosmeston, but Barry isn't. Barry is the odd exception. Caddoxton, for example, is all concentrated in one area. Halton is concentrated in one area. Merthyr Devon is concentrated in one area, but Barry isn't.
Where's the church in Barry? There isn't a Norman church, is there?
Yeah, there was. It was demolished in 1876 and rebuilt by a member of the Romney family. But it was basically where we used to meet at the St. Nick. Can you remember we used to meet at the St. Nicholas Community Hall?
Yeah.
And Tina used to be there, and so on, right?
Oh,
Well,
right.
Across the road there.
so basically opposite there is the church, is the later church.
Oh, right. Yeah. So it's quite high up, isn't it?
It's quite high up. It was a beacon. It was a white beacon to sailors out at sea. It's actually Saint Nicholas. It's associated with the patron saint of sailors.
Ah.
So in many of these villages, the manor house replaced the castle as the centre of control and authority, and a number of such sites are known from the county. In some cases, they were surrounded by a moat at Clisworney and Highlight. And that's where we're going to go now. We're going to go to wonderful Barry Castle. But what I'd like to mention again quickly about this jug that we've got here is this is from Saint-Ton in northern Bordeaux, in southwestern France. And you do see these this was like the status symbol. This was the Samian wear of the medieval period. Basically what this is, if I can give a description, I know this is in black and white, but there are examples of this. There was one or two complete examples on display in the National Museum of Wales. This itself is basically a light sort of creamy, almost tin-like glaze, and there's trailed green and sort of sometimes light blues on it. Sometimes it can be sort of an earthenware like color. Lots of different colors this can have, but it was definitely glazed internally and externally, and it was finally fired. And this was from France.
Right.
What's it called?
It's
Is it called-
Saint-Ton, where Saint-Ton, Saint SAINT
Yeah.
ONGE, Saint-Ton, where
And
Saint-Ton, where
C'est on.
Oh.
Saint-Ton,
Mm.
Saint-Ton.
Yes.
Le rue de le plan square. Parlez-vous français, oui? Anyway,
There's no C. So there's no C in it.
no, Saint-Ton,
Oh, Tong.
Saint-Ton,
Ah,
Saint-Ton.
Saint-Ton.
What's wrong with your shoes?
Saint-On where?
Saint-Ton.
Saint-Ton bleu.
Shut up, Ned. Right, okay. When you go to see Barry Castle today, this is what you see. No, it's not. This is now this is rather interesting. This was in the garden. I don't know if it's still there. It might still be, right? And Howard Thomas built a fully reconstructed Barry Castle to scale in his garden, right? And I can remember seeing this. And this is a carefully scaled reconstruction of the late 1200s castle at Barry, right? So that's what you see today, and that's the reconstruction. No, it wasn't full scale; it was scale. So obviously, I think 1 to 20 or whatever. No, it can't be that. It must have been 1 to 100. Let me get the scale. 172. No, not 172. 135. I think it was 135 scale. From the drawing of the castle itself, the gateway probably constructed by the Barry family as lords of the manor, wherever they got their name from. It is seen to be the best surviving feature. Voila. Howard made a good reconstruction in his garden. The superb model is in the garden of a local archaeologist. And basically, I'll tell you a little bit of a story about this. The stone that was used to build this was actually stone from the actual castle in the excavation.
Cool.
The Cornish slate from North Wales. I just wanted to wind Pete up then. He didn't drag to it. Right. No, Cornish slate from Cornwall, Pete. Don't get upset, right? The actual slate used on the roof was actually bits of slate that had actually come from his Howard Thomas's excavation. So the scale drawing of the scale castle was constructed using the actual materials from the actual castle that he excavated, that he built in his garden. It's great. And I would really love to think it was still there, but I don't know if it is. I don't know I don't know what his wife's intentions were with this and so on, but this very fine model, and I used to be able to go down the back lane, used to be able to look over the wall and see it, but unfortunately there's a gate on it. But again, this itself is one of the sort of great sort of enigmas, and one of the great stories when you think about sort of Barry and the story of Barry. And then finally, what I'd like to basically mention before we go on to the other bit today is that when we think about this type of thing here, this is down at Marcross, earthworks of a monastic grange at Marcross seen from the air. This was the centre of a large, important agricultural estate belonging to the Cistercian Abbey of Neath. Hang on a minute, I thought that was Monk Nash one. What's that?
Is that by the pub?
Yeah, the pub is on the right there.
Oh, right. The plough, is it?
No, that's not the plough. That's the bells.
Oh, yeah.
Or is it the shoes? It's either the shoes or the bells.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
I
was when
Yeah.
I was doing guided walks at the one at Monk Nash. That was Cistercian. I didn't think this was Cistercian. Anyway, that's what it's got in the book. So basically, when that wall sticking out there is actually part of this, which is a tithe ban, right? So what we've got across those ruins is this is basically beneath the turf lie the hidden remains of barns, stock pens, and a variety of other buildings, and a statue on a pedestal dedicated to Lloyd George. Further extensive grange remains can be found in South Glamorgan, notably at Monk Nash. The drawing suggests a reconstruction of the immense medieval barn at Monk Nash. There it is. And that itself. So what we've done, we've come full circle. Basically, the Normans come into the area. They show their political power and a cultural power by building castles. They control the religion by bringing their own monastic orders over, replacing our monastic orders. Lots of these religious orders survived much better in places like Cornwall, but not for that long. And obviously north part of Wales as well. And then what you have is the people are reorganized into little village-scapes like this one. Now, I'm going to ask you I'm going to ask you a question, right? Where this is, what is this a reconstruction of? It's somewhere in the Barron district.
Isn't it?
Anyone?
Cosmeston?
No, Cosmeston was a little. These building walls were actually made out of red clay. That the bonding material was made out of red clay that we do believe actually came from the old harbour. Okay, I'll give it away. This is a suggested reconstruction of the moated memorial site at Highlight, as it may have appeared. In the 1300s. Now, Highlight is rather different from Barry, but it's also rather different from the other villages, because you've got Highlight, the manor house, and you go down the lane, and the lane itself, you've got the street on the left and the right. If you read the signs that are at the studio, and at the end, you've got a church, right? So this is the this itself is a site that was a sub-manor of the de-summary lords of Dinas Powys at some point. So in the Vale of Glamorgan, there was Fitzhammond, and then there was these 12, or if you want to go by what Royce Merrick says, the 13 Knights of Glamorgan, right? And underneath those lords, there were sub-lords. So basically the structure went pyramidal. All the plebs like Kate, right? And then you had the reeves and the sheriffs like Peter and Richard, right? And then underneath that, you had the sub-lords like the ones at Highlight. And above that, you had the de-summaries, and you had people like the Barry family, and above that you had the Fitzhammonds, and above that you had the king. Job done. Occupation was discovered to range at the site from the 1100s to the 1400s, and we do believe that the reason why the native people didn't have a village at Highlight, Ucheli, or Uchilola, before the 1100s was because the Normans found to their horror that the land of Highlight was absolute crap. So when the plague hit Highlight, they were just wiped out because the ground was so poor for growing crops. People couldn't tend to them. It was very clay rich, very limestoney, very clay rich. And then basically that wiped out the village, and obviously malnutrition and plague and all the rest of it.
Where is it? Yeah.
So basically, that rather strange, interesting village. So I wanted to bring you that today, and the other things I wanted to bring you, right, was an indulgence, but we're really not going to. There's actually 3 bits I wanted to do today. So what I've started to do, and Richard's going to say thanks for that. I've started to getting all my paperwork out to start to work through it again. And as dedicated proof of this, we're going to show you this. This is the old harbour, and this is one of my other failings in life. This is the archaeological excavation that I undertook at the old harbour in 1989, and this work was never ever published, so this needs to be published before I die. And the moral of the story is get this stuff out and start working on it. So what you can actually see is the old harbour as it was very muddy, and there's obviously 6 people sort of there's me on the left in the mud, and I've no idea who the other 4 people are. I think the person taking the photograph was Simon Bailey, and we are working there in the muds at the old harbour, very near where there is some kind of key that I've never mentioned, which is actually preserved in a slide that belongs to Gerald Baudet. And we were working in this area, and the reason why we're working in this area is there was lots of evidence of medieval leather that had been just chucked into the old harbour in the medieval period. None of it exists now because it's all been churned up and destroyed. However, I was very lucky to be working here. The bits of medieval shoe unfortunately ended up in a skip and were destroyed forever. But I've got a single photograph of one of those artifacts, which I can show you, a very poor image. And this is looking over to Friars Point House when it looked quite decent. And I've got lots of images like this. I might actually try and put this together and actually do another presentation of this again, but I won't be doing it today. And that there is one of the leatherware samples that was found at their excavation that day. You don't see much, but you can just about make out the fibers. You can make out lots of the fragments were like this. So basically the tragedy of this story was in 1993, when I resigned from the Barry and Vale Museum Association for reasons that I will go into in full detail in the future. When I resigned from an organization that I had established as a registered charity, this guy took over all the artifacts, right? And when he moved to Gloucester, he kept them under his bed. And when this guy died in about 2010, somebody went into his flat and chucked everything that belonged to the people of Barry in a skip.
Oh God!
Along with the £5,000 that was raised in 1993 to establish a museum in Barry. So yes,
you haven't really had been able to keep track of. Well, you have kept track. You found out what happened to it.
Yeah, exactly. But it was all lost. Everything was lost. I know that people donated photographs, slides, other artifacts, which are gone forever. But this is why we're trying to do something in Barry. I'll admit that my physical health isn't good at this minute, and so my internal clock is saying I've got to do something about this before all the stuff I've got ends up in a skip. So this is why I'm really starting to get into it. And basically, and one of the reasons why we do these things on YouTube is at least some of the stuff is actually documented. But this is actually an old little plan. When I say an old little plan, this shows this shows the storehouse point. This is probably, I think, from the 1950s, and you can see all the stuff on the right there. That was all sort of clay and shale and stuff. Underneath that, between storehouse point and before it extends, there is where. Do you know what? I discovered some technology last week about this. Hang on a minute. There was a bit of technology that I discovered. I'm going to try and use it now. Right. Okay. Annotation. Oh, I'm going to annotate this now, guys. Look at a bit of technology that I discovered the other week. Right. I'm going to do it now. Hang on. Stop. Go away. I don't want that. It's ruined my life. You've ruined my life, Kate. Right. Annotation.
Oh,
Right, Kate. Look at this, Kate. Look at this.
I'm looking.
There. You see what I did there?
Oh,
Blue circle.
Yeah, the blue.
Cool.
Kate, it's not
Cool.
blue circle cement, right? And
Yeah.
Baldrick wants to say hello. Hang on a minute. Baldrick, go on. In you. There you go. Right. Okay. He's happy that I'm showing you this new technology. And Kate, where the blue
Yes.
thing is there, right? Kate.
Yes.
By the way, Kate, are you on my Facebook page of people who have ruined my life?
No, I don't think I am on your Facebook page.
I
But
need
you're
to get
right
you on
down there
there,
on the parade, aren't you? Yes.
Yeah. Right. No, this is in the mud.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay.
Right. So basically, there's the road over to Barry Island, and there is the there's the ship hotel. And actually, not so long ago, I took a load of children on the beach as part of the Young Explorers. And I told you this last week. I said, look, children, we're going to find some Roman pottery and tile. Nobody ever did until I went to around there, right? And I looked down at my feet where the cross is, and I found a bit of medieval pottery. Oh, not medieval
Cool.
pottery. Start again. Crap. I said we'd find some Roman tile and medieval pottery and whatever. Nobody did, except when I looked down at my feet where the cross is there was a nice chunk of Roman tile. It's great, isn't it?
Lovely.
Lovely. Nice piece of Roman
Is
tile.
that
So-
circle? Where are the medieval foundations you were telling me about?
Ah, right. Hang on a minute. Let's just draw it there. You see the shape of that building?
Oh, right. Okay. That's
So
sort of
as
next
you
to
go-
the kilns, sort of thing.
So basically, because it's you, and you know you're very special, right? What we're going to do, we're going to take
I
you on a
made
little bit of a
myself
tour.
indispensable. I know.
Yeah. We're going to take you on a little bit of a tour, Ruth. Right, Kate. Right.
Yes.
What we're going to do, right? We're going to do a little. You know, see what it is, because I've discovered this technology now. You're going to get this every week.
Yay.
Right. Kate actually takes photographs of this. So if we go to the ship hotel for a drink, which is there, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we go for a walk down here, right? There, as you stop, on the right hand side is actually the building footings, right? If you go around here,
Mhm.
you can actually see the lime kiln, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, Ruth, Kate.
Yeah.
So if you go down the steps, you go on the mud, right? And there
No way.
is where, get on the mud. Shut up, Ruth.
No.
It's not about you anymore. It's about Kate, right? You get on there.
I do not go on that mud, it sinks.
Oh, do you know what? Hey, do you know what?
Yeah,
We used to call it Pooey Bay. Exactly. So,
I know.
there, Kate, we've just found some medieval leather, right?
Oh, that's where the leather was.
Bondage
Yeah.
equipment. And then we go there, we
Uh-huh.
find a bit of Roman tile, right? And then we go over to here, right, which is actually evidence of a quarry. And we find another bit of Roman pottery.
Oh, right.
And actually, Kate, do you want me to show you where the statue of Lloyd George is buried?
Yes, of course.
It's buried there, and it's
Right.
buried there. It's buried there deliberately, so Ruth can't dig it
Oh,
up.
next to the what is it? Is there a A
No, it's just
tractor or a
mud.
bulldozer. There's supposed to be a bulldozer or something in there, isn't
It's
there?
I
mud.
wouldn't go there.
It's mud. Yeah, exactly. So no, they got the bulldozer out.
Did they?
Yes, that was over by the breakwater on the other side. Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is right. Okay, let's get off this now. You're doing my head in now, Kate. Right. So what we got to do? I give her so much grief. Kate, are you bringing the Welsh cakes tomorrow as well?
Oh, I'll think of something. Don't worry.
Right,
I'll think
okay.
of something.
Okay, and this itself is a plan of what's going on at the old harbour, right?
Good for you.
So what you can see, right, is if we zoom in on this, right, there you go. That is the breakwater wall on the left there, right?
Uh-huh.
And this is when I was still using feet. And
Is
and
that
there
when
we
you
go.
over? Is that when
This
you go
is in
over to
1989
Cold
and 1990.
Yes.
And then
What's the
yeah,
squiggly bits?
yeah, basically on the top bit there's the steps that go down. There's the top bit. There's the road to Barry Island, right? And all the
Right.
squiggly
Oh
bits.
yeah.
That's where the mud is. If you look at the key, right,
Yeah.
the squiggly bits. Start again. The squiggly bits are stone. The squiggly bit with the doodah is bedrock. And the little line things are the mud and the sand, I think. Yes, and the other bits are where all the so there's the mud and that's the sand. Yeah, mud and sand.
Does
So
the tide
basically,
ever come in?
yeah, the tide comes in all the time.
Oh,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you know,
it
twice a
floods
day.
It floods it twice a day.
Can I
It
tell
does
you a
fill
little
up.
Can I tell you a little story once? I went down there one day and I took the bottom half off, right? So I put my clothes on a rock and I fell asleep. And then as tide came in, washed all my clothes away and I had to go home naked. Anyway, I just thought I'd say that.
so it wasn't far, was it, Carl?
No, I could just run up the road. Yeah. Anyway, so I get all these little plans and stuff. So obviously, if I can start annotating this type of stuff, it could be quite useful. And to be honest with you, I've always said when you don't find things in archaeology, it can be as useful as finding things. But when this stuff was going, lots of things were found. And I've got lots more plans and stuff to show you. So we'll be doing that again, right? Moving on from that. And then I want to do. We're not gonna have enough time today. So, but we've got about another 10 minutes. And what I'd like to do. This is actually right. We're going to ask you, Ruth. Where's this, Ruth? Where was
I can't
this?
even see it.
What?
Hang on. I can't see it.
That lovely massive
By
tree.
Carrickson Church.
No.
I can recognise it, can't put it.
There's Pauline, Richard's wife.
Edward, yeah.
Yeah.
What's
Oh dear.
that for it? Is it
Is that
down
what that
to
is?
Is that supposed to be Berry Village?
Barry
Yes,
Village?
that's the Barry Village.
Oh gosh, yeah. I see it now.
This is Old Barry Village in 1899.
So where was it? Down the bottom?
Yeah.
By
This,
the
Yeah.
harbour?
no, this
Well,
is by the
it's- it's-
studio.
It's
Oh.
old. It's called Old
This-
Village Road.
Yeah.
This is by the studio.
But it's not high up, is
You
it?
turn off St. Nicholas
Oh
Road
yeah.
onto Village Road, and those would be on the right there. It doesn't look anything like it now. Of course, there are a lot of Edwardian houses across the road, and
No.
So basically,
I think the road is even lower than it is here.
yeah, that's the old elm tree, which is now gone.
Mm.
But what you've got is the two villages. The first one, that's Rose Cottage, but the one behind it's now gone. That's gone, right?
Mhm.
And those two are the buildings behind, which are still there today. And actually, alongside there now, you've got two white Land Rovers.
Yes.
The two legendary white Land Rovers. And that woman there, that's a little girl, isn't it? Look at the way
Yeah.
she's dressed.
Yes.
How
Little
cute.
girl.
Super.
Isn't it
That's
lovely?
Emily.
That's my little Emily. Little Emily. I tell you what, my little Emily looks absolutely gorgeous now. She's a stunner.
She
Oh.
always was.
She always was a stunner. She's taken
Yeah.
after her dad. Right.
Mm.
Okay. This is inside. This is inside Barry Castle, and
I thought it
and
was.
there's
I said Barry Castle, didn't I?
there's Anne in the background, the silly cow.
That's me. I'm
That's
sure I
you,
was
that's
a cow
you.
before.
And this is
love
Barry
cows.
Castle in 1910.
Wow. Haven't
Oh,
changed
well,
much, is it?
these,
No,
yes.
it hasn't actually changed much, in all honesty. No, it really hasn't. And no, it hasn't. Yeah, when you think about that, no, it hasn't. I think no, I wouldn't say much has changed at all. So
No.
Well, in Newport, over the river, overlooking the River Abu, there was a keep, a mott and bailey, and it's just all been destroyed. You know, every bit of it. And
yeah,
it's a shame because they made a council estate. You know, it's one of these out of town council estates, and they just destroyed it all. You know.
well, and the Ukrainians have got to live somewhere, haven't they? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
In their own
Well, it
country.
was called Little Moscow, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's just move on before my YouTube channel is taken offline altogether.
So
Right,
it's
okay.
lovely that they got
Um,
this.
Finally, the one thing I wanted to do today, right? The other thing I wanted to do today, is just to read out a section that links in with what we started off with today. And what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to read this out and annex some of the text because it's not going to run right. So I will try to do my best. It's basically a page and a half. And here we go. Rights Merrick writes. It goes on to say the cause of the coming of the 13 nights into Glamorgan. That's what it says. 13 nights into Glamorgan. Justin ap Gurgan, weighing the inclination of Rhys ap Tudor and his willful perseverance to prosecute him with deadly war. Basically, what was happening is that Rhys ap Tudor, who was basically the Welsh king of the area, was at war with Justin ap Gurgan, who believed he was the king of Glamorgan. Right? That's basically what that means. And that entrance made that they should, not through their willful desertion, cast all into utter danger, could not prevail. So in other words, the war between these two Welsh leaders, Justin ap Gurgan, Rhys ap Tudor, nobody was winning, right? And considerable his force unable to encounter with the power of so great a prince, determined to procure foreign power to his assistance. So in other words, Justin ap Gurgan could not defeat the king, Rhys ap Tudor, the true king of this part of Wales. He couldn't defeat him. So he decided to ask a foreign power to help. And it was because of Justin ap Gurgan that we end up with the Normans, right? A Welshman invites the bloody Normans over, thinking that this was most safety, which in the end proved his utter confusion. Wherefore, to execute this employment, sent a gentleman of his named John to be his brother-in-law, little hoping for such fruit of displeasure thereof to spring as happened. This John speed him to England in the year of our Lord God 1090, and of William Rufus the fourth, where he retained for that purpose one Sir Robert Fitzhammond, a valiant knight and a man of great worthiness in martial affairs, and one of the Privy Council with the said king, who, being desirous to exercise himself in the feats of war for a certain salary to him promised by John, remember, was a brother-in-law to Justin ap Gurgan, took this enterprise in hand, rather thereto and induced as the success giveth cause to conjecture, with the hope to obtain dominion in the country. The prince and great lord, then being at discord, then moved with entrance of the suitor, and being retained by John, again brother-in-law to Iestyn ap Gorgon, assembled a band of chosen men of war, conducted by 12 chieftains under him, being 12 knights, and also valiant men and well practiced in the feats of chivalry. Known to me that you open this chapter with 13 knights, and suddenly you've only got 12. And speedily goes into Wales, and joining his band with the power of Justin, in order march towards the place appointed for the encounter. So in other words, Iestyn ap Gorgon, with his brother-in-law, it inviting the bloody Normans over to help him to fight Rhys ap Tudor, who should have been the rightful king of this part of Wales, Welsh king, right? You know what's coming, don't you? Find the first place of encounter to be in the Clowns of Brecon and Glamorganshire, near Hirwaun, at a place therefore called and known by the name of Ton Rhys, where Iestyn and the mercenary retreated and fought a pitched battle at Bryn y Beddau, where Rhys was overthrown, and on the pursuit killed, and his head severed from his body, and brought to the conqueror, which was by the looks of it was Fitzhammond, but you could say that Iestyn's still in charge. At this point, the Normans had defeated a Welsh king, right? Who is actually the one helping who? That's the question. Are they helping Iestyn, or is Iestyn helping the Normans, right? So this is what's going through the mind of Fitzhammond. In memory there, that place is called Penrhys. Now, I used to live in Penrhys, right? Never again. Where both parties met, between whom was fought a sharp and bloody battle, where, in the end, the victory fortuned was just inside, Rhys ap Tudor being slain, and one of his sons, as some affirm, the rest of his company either slain or in his chronicle, not understanding the cause of this battle, aftermath. And then the aftermath was as follows. So if I can read this out. That's about the year of King William Rufus's reign. The Welshmen, with their king or duke named Rhys, break out upon the Englishmen in the border, where standeth the castle of Brecon, and there made masters for a while. But in the end his people were chased and slain, and he wounded to death, so that he died the 3rd day following. So in other words, Iestyn ap Gorgon, realizing his mistakes in bringing the Normans over, fought Robert Fitzhammond, was defeated, and 3 days later, Iestyn ap Gorgon was killed. This Rhys is accompanied of writers, the last king of Wales. So in other words, or you could say South Wales. Thus for Robert Fitzhammond, hereby you may see the indifference of writers, not knowing the true cause why this battle was fought, and yet ready to attribute it to the worst. In other words, Iestyn was defeated eventually because he had betrayed his own people, and then he was betrayed by the Normans, who he invited to come over to this land. There is more written in this book, but I wanted to make that as simple as possible, which I've done. So it's now 12:33. We're going to call that a day now, and we're going to get everybody on the screen, and we're going to see if anybody has got anything else to say. And what I'm just going to do this to keep to keep Ruth and Kate happy, right? Here we go, Kate and Ruth. Kate and Ruth and Fig.
And Fig.
Uh,
Figgies.
Lush.
No.
There you go. I just put that on there, right? And oh my God, I've just heard somebody say, "What about me?" Okay, what we're gonna do? We're gonna do Anne, Kathy, our babes. Here we go, our babes, right? Oh, now Richard's saying, "What about me?" Okay, then. Okay.
But Richard. Oh, Richard. Is he there?
Richard
Yeah.
and
Oh,
Richard and Pete. Lord
Oh, he's having fun.
of Passion.
Lots of.
There we go. Lords of Passion. There we go. I don't know what that means. But
Sing.
I don't know what that means. Right. Anyway, that's it. Well, that's it.
Couple of quick questions, quick ones.
Hang on a minute. Let me get my thingy out.
Okay, excuse
Oh,
me.
hang on a minute. Lord of the Rings series. Did I just see that? Oh, hang on. Lord of the Rings series sued for $250 million. Oh, I don't know why that is. That's something to do with Baggins. Hang on. Why has it gone wrong? I gotta get my
They've
thing
all
out.
got money, haven't they?
Right, here we go.
Yeah.
Right, go to it. Right. Let's ask Anne if she's got any questions first, because Anne is the superior inferior numpty from Tregaron.
Well, I am a numpty because I didn't know much about Barry, but
Anne, you're not a numpty. We love you. Come on, Anne.
I'm getting there. But yes, and that was interesting about Penrith, because I know you were going on about something up there going on.
Yes.
and oh, I understand now. Well, a bit. So yes, it's very interesting. But I haven't got any questions. No.
Anne, I'm so pleased you understand.
I asked them in the middle of the class.
I don't, Anne, don't worry about it. It's all for the good of the country. Don't worry about it. Right. Okay. Right. Anyway, thanks for that, Anne. I have no idea what that was about. Right. What we're going to do, we're going to go for our Cornish leprechaun. Have you got anything else you'd like to say, Pete?
No, fine, thanks.
Good. Oh, he's being nice for once.
Yep.
What about Ruth?
Do you know anything about the church on the corner of RAF St. Athan?
Oh yeah, the little one, the tiny little church.
On the corner.
Yeah, the one that you can only ever go and see once a year.
Why?
Well, I don't know. Small, isn't it?
Yeah, very small.
It's one of the smallest churches in Wales, actually.
It's by the Fisher's Bridge Inn.
Yeah, well, that's gone now, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's that church there.
Yeah, that's right. It's one of the smallest churches in Wales. I think I've been into it once years and years ago.
Because I used to play in that graveyard.
Oh well, there you are.
I don't. Other than what I've said, I don't know a hell of a lot about it. But I think they've tried to retain it and keep it okay.
But I was born about 20 yards from it.
What, in a hedge?
No, the road.
All right, fair enough. I used to do leaflets around there for the classes. I don't know much about that, but I know it's one of the smallest churches in Wales.
Is it an Anglican or is it
I can't remember.
Yeah, it would be Anglican, but I don't know much more than that. I don't know much more. So.
Right, okay.
Eglwys Brewis.
There and that.
Eglwys Brewis Church, that's right. Eglwys Brewis.
Oh.
Eglwys Brewis Church, that's the one. Oh, we got a little bit of information there. Anyway, anything else, Ruth?
That's it. I can't make it tomorrow. I'm going to visit my friend's mum in a nursing home.
Oh, right.
All right.
So,
okay.
So what are you doing tomorrow?
Well, we're going to be at the studio from 3:30, and what it is, it's our Barry Naked class. So what we do, we take all our clothes off and we sit there talking about history.
No, we don't. We're painting and organizing the books and moving furniture, recovering chairs.
Oh my goodness.
Mostly sorting out the books, though. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing.
If anybody's got any bookshelves, that could be useful.
Yeah, bookshelves would be good. And if anyone wants to drop along after 4 o'clock to say hello, if Peter and Richard wants to come along, and if Richard's got any stuff, i.e. on Tinkers with Burial Chamber, he wants to drop off, then that's fine.
There might be cake.
Oh, right, Richard's there. Richard's there. Don't tell Richard's missus. She'll be there as well.
I got a question though. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. Go on, go for it.
The Normans brought over the Cistercians. Who else did they bring over?
The Carthusians, the Benedictines, the Dominicans, Franciscans, Benedictine, Dominicans, Carthusians.
Oh, the lot.
The lot, except
Yeah, most of them really.
but they didn't bring the pre-Monstratian monks over. They were brought over by the Welsh.
Who were they? What was their name?
Pre-Monstratian. If you look at Sally Abbey, you'll see the pre-Monstratian monks.
Oh, right.
Monstratian.
I'm probably saying it wrong.
I'll
but
find
you
it.
know.
I'll find it. And another quick question about St. Peter's Church.
Oh,
You
Latin.
mentioned it, but you don't know where it is.
Hang on, I do know where it is. What?
No, but you didn't say where it was. I'm asking.
All right. If you go through Cairo, right, expect that your car's going to be broken into, nicked, and set fire to. Right. After you cope with that, park there at the community centre at the bottom. Walk up the hill, which takes you about 10 minutes. Go in daylight, right? Otherwise, you'll be burnt at a stake on the top because you get lots of dead people burnt alive on the top. But if you go there at a nice time of year and there's loads of people around, you go to the top and you see St. Peter's Church, and there alongside it, as you look towards the centre of Cardiff, there's a donut, and you stand on the bank of the donut.
All
You can
right.
see yeah, that's the.
I mean,
So this isn't St. Mary's. This is a different church. St. Mary's is a ruined one, isn't it?
Oh, hang on a minute. I'm getting confused a minute. Oh, right. That's
Mary's,
St.
yeah.
Mary's. Yeah. No, St. Peter's is Cogan Hall Farm.
Cogan Hall.
Cogan Hall. As you go through the Vale, right?
Uh-huh.
And you go along the back road, sort of through Swanbridge, and you keep going as if you're going towards the back end of Cog.
Right.
Oh no, Cogan, the back end of Cogan, right?
Yeah.
And just as you go around the bend in the road, on the right, there's Cogan Hall Farm, and then there's Cogan Hall Church. And they sell nice pork sausages. Don't, whatever you do, feed the pigs apples because they get pissed.
Cool.
That's St. Peter's Church. That's St. Peter's Church.
But
And if
if
I've
you
made the
want-
mistake earlier, hang on. If I've made the mistake earlier on, it's St. Mary's Church, which is the one at
At Cairo.
which is
Cairo.
the one. If I've made that
Okay,
mistake,
cool.
I apologise.
I totally think it's so.
Right. Okay. Right. To say something, but I don't know if you want to say something, but you want to say anything quickly because Kathy wants to say something.
No.
Right. I would like to say, don't forget, it's only two of you this week, right? It's Kathy and Ruth. Don't forget your shekels this week, and I really appreciate it when you put the shekels in the account. Thank you very much. That echo.
Well, shekels, where did they start?
Next door to the Welks.
I owe £2 this week, don't I?
Ah.
Did we say?
Shekels.
That's it.
Shekels.
Was it last week?
Oh,
A
okay.
shekel for your life
No.
story, sure. Right, okay then. You can tell us.
I
You
did
watched the
10
programme,
last week,
Pete.
you said
Right,
two.
Okay.
nice.
So that was the week
Kathy.
before. That was the week before.
No, there's nothing, thanks.
Oh, hello, Kathy.
Hang
Hi.
on Right, what we want to do is see a little bit more hair because I know Richard's growing his hair now. Richard, anything you want to say?
Something to do with the Fitzhamon and everything with his night. And it's funny, I was looking, I had Paul Ogden's been on to me for stuff on Old Beaupre Castle and Landlock.
Yeah.
But I see on there most of it is owned by the Bassets. The Bassett family were also given a lot of land by Fitzhamon. And I was looking, and apparently loads of the Bassets all fought at the Battle of Hastings.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
And a
right.
lot of them, they've got land all over sort of southwest. I think
Oh,
it's
right, that-
Norfolk and everything.
That's really
But there
really
was quite a
interesting.
lot of Bassets apparently who came from a little town in Normandy.
And the big question is, I know Anne's going to ask this, so I'm going to say it so it doesn't make Anne look a bit silly. Is that where we get Bassett all sorts from?
Of course it is.
The Bassett.
Bassett.
They're Northern. They're from Terry's, I think.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Terry's produced
Yeah.
Bassett's licorice all sorts. Yeah, do they? I
Probably
don't know.
the one that moved up north.
Oh, the one at Bargum.
Aye.
Right. Okay. Anyway, thanks for that.
Francois Bassett.
Francois Bassett. Francois. Nice. Nice.
I'll tell you
Anyone
another
else got
weird
any?
thing. Mine's going on
Yeah, go on.
about Reese Merrick
Yes.
Mary.
on his book. And apparently one day, I think at the time that he's written this, I think he's at on the A48 at
St.
Yeah,
Nicholas.
Cantameric.
No, no. Rice Merrick is living
nothing to
near
do with
at Rice Merrick is living at. I'll give you the Sutton Farm at near St. Nicholas. Yeah, go on.
Oh,
Yeah, later on though, he's at where the golf club is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
what do they
Cottrell.
call it?
Cottrell.
Park, yeah.
hmm.
And it's
Okay.
funny that he mentions Barry, that a lot of cattle and that escape from farms along the A48, or the Portway they're calling it then, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they all head for Barry.
Oh. Oh.
And they were never ever seen again.
But Barry was only so it must be a bit more sort of, why you just say they head towards the coast or they head for Cabotston. Cabotston is a bigger village and everything, but no, he says they head for Barry.
I was coming down the 5 Mile Lane new road,
Yeah.
and I noticed there was a big mound of earth in one of the fields by where they were digging, at one time, and it suddenly made me think of, I wonder if they're gonna bring the bodies back, the bones back.
No, they're not bringing them back. Nobody knows what's happened to them.
Oh,
Oh.
because I mean, we do need our history.
Barry.
Well, the thing is, if it was in Ireland, as we saw with the examples in Ireland
Yeah.
last week's class, that was it County Mayo, where that church where they were.
County Down. Oh,
Yeah, it was County Down. Yeah, it was County Down. Basically, they had found a load of bodies, and they decided that we were going to buy some land opposite to rebury the bodies in, which is the perfect place they're meant to do and put a memorial there. But in Wales, we're so backwards and we don't care about our history. It's just like, yeah, there we go. Right, okay. I'm gonna have to go in a minute because I haven't fed any of the animals yet either. So I just want to know, are there any questions? Are there any other questions from anybody else? Richard?
No, I'm done.
Okay, are you done, Kathy and Pete? And
Now shekels are the 27.3 to the pound. How many do you want?
Oh, for God's sake. Hang on, 27.3 to the pound. Peter.
Yeah.
I can have one.
I learned my hair fell out.
Hang on a minute, Peter. What I'm going to do is make this all.
I don't know why. Maybe
I'll have the 0.3 to the pound, okay?
The shekels is 2.22 of a pound.
I'm falling out.
Hang on, everybody, shut up. Let Pete talk. Go on, Pete.
The shekel is 0.22 of a pound.
My goodness.
How do you work that out? Right, okay, my head's gone.
The Israeli shekel.
Yeah.
Shekels. I didn't say they were Israeli shekels, did I?
So that's
You presumed they were
22p.
Israeli shekels.
There we go.
Yay.
Right, okay. Okay, so I'm going to finally ask, is there anything that Ruth, Anne, Kathy, Kate, Peter, or
I
Richard
thought
want
of
to
one
say?
more thing.
Go on quickly.
National Trust related. There's a website called National Trust Collections.org, and it's like photographs of loads of their pieces of art and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's fun. You can see them without having to visit the properties.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's
yes.
not good, is it? They got to make their money somehow. Flip an
Yeah.
heck. Right, okay.
Oh, I'm all for doing it for free, honey.
You're not going to get these classes free, right? Okay. Right. Okay. Well, if nobody else has got anything else to say, then what we are going to do, we will see you all next week. Anyone interested in coming along to the studio tomorrow at 4 o'clock, they're very welcome. Kate's obviously going there a little bit earlier to help. If if there's nothing else to say this week, thank you for your continued support, and I will see you all next week. And Richard, keep looking at the updates I send you, which I already know you are.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else that needed saying, I'm going to say goodbye to Anne, Peter,
Bye.
Richard, Kathy, Kate, and Ruth, and thank you very much. We'll see
Bye.
you all next
Looking
week.
forward
Take
to
care.
seeing you all
Bye.
in person
Bye.
soon.
See you tomorrow. See you next week.
Bye.
And see you tonight, Anne. See you tonight, Anne, and Peter
Bye,
tonight, Anne.
Kathy.
Bye.
See you
Oh, not
later.
Pete. No, Pete's next week. Pete next. Oh, sorry, I'm getting confused. Right, guys. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Keep going.
Yay, that was fun.
By the way, it looks like Ukraine is now losing the war against Russia finally. Thanks
Oh
God for that.
no.
You mean they're admitting it at long last? They've
Yeah,
run
they're
out of
admitting it
money.
all out, yeah.
They've
Oh,
run out of
bless
people
them.
who will give them money for their. Anyway,
Right,
cheers.
anyway. Okay, let's sorry we won't be seeing you. Sorry we won't be seeing you, Ruth, but I will
know.
no doubt.
I'll get that
no
paint
doubt.
to you as soon as I can.
Oh, you legend. All right then, don't worry about it.
He's got silver paint for the cabinets, and he's
Oh,
got
right.
floor, and he's
What?
got floor paint.
What is it? A spray for
Yeah,
the cabinets?
yeah.
I was going to
Oh,
buy
wow.
some today, though. Now we could get them done tomorrow.
Oh,
Have I got to wait for him?
Yeah.
I'd rather just get it done tomorrow. Is that okay?
Well, I tell you what I'm going to say is not to fudge Ruth. Whatever paint Ruth has got, right, we can use it because we've got
yeah, 'cause
lots
Yeah,
of metal
we
stuff
can use
we
it
need
for
to
something
spray.
else.
he
You know,
gets it free
Ruth,
from
Ruth,
work.
we need it. Whatever happens, we need it.
Yeah,
Super. Okay.
and floor paint.
Super.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's posh.
we need. Yeah, exactly. So Ruth, anything we can get from either of you or whatever would be greatly appreciated. And
Yeah,
look forward to doing it tomorrow.
Yay.
I will miss you.
Cheerio.
Yes, I know you will. Oh, therefore, don't forget the milk as well.
Okay.
All right.
Is Michelle coming?
I don't know.
Just to make sure I have enough if I bring something to eat.
Oh well,
Okay.
if nobody else eats it, then we'll eat it.
Okay. See you tomorrow. Have a great day.
I will. See you tomorrow. Having a great day. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye, lovelies. Bye. Bye. Take care. Thanks a lot. See you
Bye.
tomorrow. Thank you. Sorry you won't see Ruth. Right, that's me done today. That was a longer one than I thought. I got to get on with feeding the animals. Close, everyone. Close, everyone. Close, everyone. Close meeting chat. 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 And close meeting chat. How did I do that? I don't know. Wouldn't close. Bye. OCD there. Don't forget, like, subscribe, join. Always join. If you join, it's £1.99 a month. We'd really appreciate that. It